with this club, and in fact Mauricio Pochettino has been talking about his time at PSG and said the obsession is the Champions League and not winning it is synonymous with failure. Well, good job that we've got Jules and Frank here for this topic. Once again, it does seem, Jules, it is Champions League or bust when it comes to PSG.
No, what's a failure is to lose the way Pochettino's team has lost Real Madrid at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid. That's the failure. A failure is not to not win the Champions League. The failure is to be knocked out the way they did in the last 16-second leg. That's a failure, and that failure is on him. And I find it really, really sad in a way for him to open his mouth now and said, oh, you know, they didn't give me time because I didn't win the Champions League, then I was a failure. No, you were a failure because you lost that game and you didn't even react when your team was starting to sink. That's the problem here. You know, other managers have reached finals, semi-finals, including him for the semi-final. But the failure was that defeat in Madrid. It was nothing else. And yes, he's judged mostly on that, and maybe on that point, he has a point himself. It's maybe too narrow thinking to just judge him, or not judge him, but mostly judging him on that defeat. But that defeat is the biggest game of their season. And on that defeat, on that game, he was absent. He didn't deliver at all. So I find it, I find it a bit sad for him to say those kind of things, because yes, it's very important and it's their dream, like he's the dream for every single big clubs in Europe to win that, and especially for them because they've never won it. But it's a failure if you lose in the way they did, in a humiliating way like that. Not if you lose in a final or in a semi-final, like he did the previous season against Man City, for example.
Frank?
Yeah, I totally agree with Jules in the matter of Pochettino complaining about something that he wasn't good enough to sort out. But it's time for the PSG to really understand that it doesn't matter the coach you're going to get. You know, every season you almost have the same turn of event in the Champions League. So it's not really to win the Champions League, it's to avoid losing the way they now used to lose and being eliminated from the Champions League. We saw so many times all through the years that we follow Paris Saint-Germain and we want to see them winning the Champions League. So many games that they lost because of not being there, not being tuned in, thinking that they're better than the others. So it's of course due to the coaches, but we have to think that it's due to the players. And we have to name names because, yeah. No,
sorry, continue, Frank. You have to name names.
No, it's just the fact that, yeah, because and I won't be the only one to name names, because you just named Neymar and the fact that he's been for 5 years at Paris Saint-Germain, but what they achieved since he signed is mostly more issues than silverware. Yeah, domestic silverware, but again, we don't care, because with the players that they have, the amount of money that they spend for those players, of course everybody expects them to win the Champions League at some point. You could have said the same for Manchester City, but Manchester City is in the Premier League and fights against Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal. They don't fight against Lorient, I don't know, and with all due respect, Strasbourg and some other little clubs. So it's normal for Paris Saint-Germain to win the domestic competitions. But we want to see them fighting in the final of the Champions League every year because of the players that they have. And it's all not only because of the coaches, again, it's mainly now, and I'm sure about that, mainly because of some players.
It does seem strange, though, Jules, as Frank's just saying, you can talk about Liga, but PSG is so often and so universally judged by how they do in the Champions League each season. Is that a weird way to judge a side?
It is a bit, and there's other ways to do it, but Frank is right, and we all know it, that the league should be won every season by PSG, and when they don't win it, which happens sometimes, not often, but it happens sometimes with Montpellier and then with Lille and obviously with Monaco, then that's an even bigger failure. But then, of course, the Champions League, because this is the competition where it's at their level, really, or they're even not good enough, really, to go and win it compared to Ligue 1, for example, or the French Cup or the French League Cup before. So, in a way, you understand why this is this is the level where you have to judge them. You have to judge them against teams of their level, which there's none in Ligue 1, but the teams at their level are there in the Champions League. So you judge them in a game against Real Madrid or Barcelona or City or Chelsea or Liverpool, etc., etc., etc. And whether they do well, they reach the final. This is an amazing season, and they were very close to potentially beating Bayern Munich and winning that final in 2020. It was not so good in 2022. It was still quite good in 2021 when you reach the semi-final and you're very much in the game after the first leg, or at least during the first leg, and then the second leg away at City is more difficult. But so sometimes even when you don't win it, it can be a positive season and you can have a positive European campaign. The problem, as we've been saying, is those big games that they lose, those big failures, the remontadas, etc., which happen every 3 years, the last 9 years. But I guess there's another season and another campaign of Champions League every year, which brings new hope. Now there's a new manager. Maybe he will find the right formula. Is the dream, I think, and the hope for all the fans and all the people at the club.
Well, let me ask you, Jules, first of all, do you think that they're in a better position to win it this year? And what does their best 11 look like to you?
I think it's a better squad and a more balanced squad than I think they maybe ever had, and certainly better than last season, in the sense that the recruitment that they've done is quite clever, I think. They're getting rid of players as well who were not going to play, the likes of Paredes and Gay and Wijnaldum, those kind of guys that they didn't want there anymore. And they bring people like Renato Sanchez and Vitinha, who bring something a little bit different, who are younger, with more energy, that can bring more intensity, that can play different positions. I think this is better. We saw Messi already much sharper than he ever was last season. Neymar, I think, has a point to prove, and he knows it. And obviously you've got Kylian Mbappe, who decided to stay, and who you could expect be in the form of his life this season coming with the World Cup and etc. So I think they're in a better place in terms of the squad. The manager, there's still a question mark because this is the highest level that he's ever been at, and this is all new for him. So he needs a bit of time, but I'm still a bit skeptical about what he can bring to that team, but I guess we'll have to see. And then, I don't know, every year at this time you ask me the question, and every time I dream and I say, yes, we're going to win the Champions League, and we never do. So I'm going to say it again. Yes, they can win it, of course. They will need to click. They will need a lot of things to happen their way, to go their way for them to go and win it. But with players like that, if Sergio Ramos stays fit, and Messi and Neymar and Mbappe, of course it's possible. It's always possible. I like the back three. I think this is a positive start of the season for them to play that way, but there's still a very long way to go.
We are still seeing that incredible front three from them, but then still, so many do say that they're not going to give you anything defensively in a team like this.
And the challenge is always about PSG overcoming that hurdle, and both Jules and Frank are absolutely right. Given the discrepancy between PSG and everybody else in Ligue 1, the minimum you can expect is for them to win the league, and quite comfortably. They barely have to be at 75% to do that. But to Pochettino's statement, you are then judged on performance in the Champions League. And given their spending, given the fact that you have three of arguably the top 10 strikers in the world as your front three, and on paper both are a more potent strike force than anybody else, you should be faring a whole lot better than you have been in the Champions League. And as Jules rightly points out, if you don't win it, you were supposed to make bigger and better clubs than you sweat. And too often, I think PSG have let themselves down in that regard. Last season, when they had Real Madrid, eventual champions Real Madrid, they had them right where they wanted them after the first leg. But it just feels, and this is a lot of my issue with PSG, it just seems as though arrogance comes back to cost them. And that is a bitter pill to swallow when you're losing, not because of your football, not because of your talent, but because of your arrogance. That will always be criticised.
And you probably remember, Frank, as well, the images where we saw that phenomenal front three up top and then the disconnect between them and the rest of the team again in that game against Real Madrid. Can they still afford to do that this year?
Well, I guess they will unconsciously, subconsciously, sorry, because that's the way they are made. You know, they're not there to defend, and they never did, and they will never do. They try to make an effort, but naturally they're going to go back to their weaknesses, which is not defending, not helping the team when they lose the ball. But I would say that it's almost the last season that we can see the arrogance that Xhaka is talking about, because they will have to face their responsibilities, and they will all do that, and I think they can work together very well. I think they have the coach for that, because he's a warrior and I know him very well, and I think Christophe Galtier is going to be ready to put some big star on the bench if they don't perform. That might be the big turn, and for them and their pride, again, I think it's the last season that they can pretend. Well, they cannot be the people that they normally are, and the people that we want to see them being. And they will have to show that, otherwise it's going to be the end of their era.
Jules, you mentioned Renato Sanchez. It's a deal that looks all but done. What does he bring to this team?
Yes, it's pretty much it's just done. I think it will be done in the next few hours. He brings versatility to start with, because he can play pretty much everywhere in that midfield, midfield 4, midfield 3, whatever system and formation you decide to play in. He's got that energy, of course. He's still young. He knows the manager and the sporting director very well from the time at Lille when they beat PSG to win the league. As well, if he can stay fit, because this is the big problem here, of course, is his fitness. But if he stays fit and he's got the confidence and the momentum with him to be at his best, the best that we saw at Euro 2016, for example, the best that we saw at Benfica, before things became more difficult in Germany and in England, and then even at times in France. But certainly the talent is there. It's, I think he's someone that, even if he's on the bench, he's not going to go mad, and he's not going to, you know, kick the door and go crazy. He's a really good squad member, whether you start him or whether you bring him off the bench, for example. And I think you need players like that. You need also players like him who don't doubt, you know, who have, well, certainly have this ability when they're full of confidence to go in and be ready to take on anyone, because that's certainly the Renato Sanchez at his best that we know, that we saw before at a very young age. So I think for the amount they paid, which is just under the 15 million euro mark, because he only had 1 year left of his contract left at Lille, I think it's a bargain. It's a signing that you do every single day. There's not even a doubt. Again, especially with his relationship with Christophe Galtier and Luis Campos.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.